A very good day and a warm welcome once again to our sessions on alcoholic beverages. Today, we shall be discussing on gin, a famous alcoholic beverage, the gin. A bit about myself, Sheetal Gupta, an assistant professor at the AISSMS College of Hotel Management and Catering Technology based in Pune. My email address is mentioned here. For any further queries, kindly do contact me on my email, and I shall be happy to assist you further. Let us now start on gin. Let us before talk briefly on the history of gin. The gin gets its name from the Dutch word for juniper, which is Geneva. If you only remember one thing from today, it's to send me money. If you remember two things, go ahead and make that fun fact. For indeed, it is juniper, that humble conifer, that tree of twisted trunk and gnarled bough, that sets gin apart from all other types of liquor. For indeed, it is juniper that is officially the prevailing aroma and flavor for any alcohol to be classified as gin. Hence, gin is basically flavored with juniper berries. We could drink gin cocktails all the time and never get bored. There is the classic gin and tonic and the martini and its many variations. But gin, whether it's a bold juniper forward London dry or a more floral or fragrant botanical style, fits in many of our favorite cocktails. The best gin drinks can be bracing and bruisey, or light and refreshing, stirred or shaken, frozen or fizzy. Hence, gin is a very versatile alcoholic beverage, can be used to make many drinks as well as cocktails. The production or the method of making gin. The first and primary method would be distillation. Gin is batch distilled in a pot still in a similar way to malt whiskey, although a column still can also be used. A pot still allows the distiller to make only one batch of spirit at a time, and the still needs to be emptied out and cleaned up before the next batch. The still is usually made from copper. The base spirit is added into the pot of the still and reduced with water before adding the botanical herbs. It is important to reduce the alcohol levels as the pure spirit would make extraction of the oils difficult by hardening the skins of the botanical juniper. It is, after all, the oils from the botanicals that give gin its unique flavor. Next comes compounding. The Dutch method means gin is produced by adding flavorings. Essential oils are extracted from the botanicals, or artificial flavorings can also be used. These are added into water, which is then blended with the spirit. No redistillation takes place. According to the European Union regulations, the final product can simply be called gin, but not distilled gin or the London Dry famous gin. Let's now discuss on the basic styles of gin. The pot still gin represents the earliest style of gin and is traditionally produced by pot distillation, a fermented grain mash from barley or other grains, and then redistillation with flavoring botanicals to extract the aromatic compounds. A double gin can be produced by redistilling the first gin again with more botanicals. Due to the usage of the pot still, the alcohol content of the distillate is relatively low, around 68% ABV, which is alcohol by volume, for a single distilled gin, or 76% ABV for a double gin. This type of gin is often used in tanks or wooden casks and aged, retaining a heavier malty flavor that gives it a marked resemblance to whiskey. Koren wine or grain wine and the oud or the old style of Geneva gin or Holland gin represent the most prominent gins of this pot distilled class. The column distilled gin is evolved following the invention of the coffee still and is produced by first distilling high proof, example, 96% ABV neutral spirits from a fermented mash using a refluxing still, such as a column still. The fermentable base for this spirit may be derived from grains, sugar beets, grapes, potatoes, sugarcane, plain sugar, or any other material of agricultural base. The highly concentrated spirit is then redistilled with juniper berries and other botanicals in a pot still. Most often, the botanicals are suspended in a gin basket, which is positioned within the head of the still, which allows the hot alcoholic vapors to extract the flavoring components from the botanical charge. This method yields a gin lighter in flavor than the older pot still and results in a distilled gin or a London dry gin, depending largely upon how the spirit is finished. A compound gin is made by flavoring neutral spirits with essences, other natural flavorings, or natural botanical ingredients left to infuse in the neutral spirits without any redistillation. Some of the other important and most profound gin styles are the London Dry Gin, which is a grain alcohol redistilled with only natural botanicals, and only a minute amount of sweeteners can be used after redistillation. The London Dry does not necessarily have to be from London. It is just a style of gin. The distilled gin is a neutral spirit with natural botanicals that are redistilled, but additionally, natural and artificial flavorings and colorings are added after the distillation. So hence, gin is the base spirit with flavorings which are naturally juniper berries or artificial botanicals which are combined without redistillation. This method is also called cold compounded. It is a cheaper way of making gin, although not a very popular method. Let us now see a small video on the production of gin. Kindly pay attention to this little video, which will give you more insights on the production of gin.
Gin is a distilled alcoholic spirit. It's flavored primarily with juniper berries. In fact, the word gin is believed to come from Genever, the Dutch word for juniper. It's the base for many popular mixed drinks such as the martini, the Singapore sling, and of course, gin and tonic. This micro-distillery produces gin in small batches, using a slower distillation process. They don't add any sweeteners, artificial flavoring, or coloring. At this distillery, everything is done by hand, starting with the main ingredient, juniper berries. Then spices are added, dried angelica plant roots, coriander seeds, lemon peel, and cardamom. All these ingredients go into a 90-gallon copper still. A spirit distilled from fermented grain is already in the still. It's completely tasteless, but has an alcohol content of 95%. To lower the alcohol level to 40%, they've diluted it with spring water. Now they prepare to redistill with the spices. This gives the spirit its distinct gin flavor. To do this, they slowly heat the bottom of the still. In about an hour, the alcohol boils and begins to evaporate. They continue distilling for about 6 hours, constantly monitoring the temperature. If the temperature reaches 212 degrees, the water will also evaporate, ruining the batch. The alcohol steam rises up and out of the still through pipes leading to a chilled stainless steel tank. When the hot steam hits the cold, it condenses back to a liquid, creating gin. Throughout the distillation process, they take samples to measure the density and temperature. These readings reflect the current alcohol level. They adjust the distillation speed as required to produce a target alcohol level of 76%. Only the middle of each batch, known as the heart of the distillation, is collected. This particular distillery adds another step. They infuse the gin with raw parsnips. This gives it an earthy flavor and subtle floral aroma. They peel and slice the parsnips, place them in a tank, then pump in the gin. After a couple of days, they pump it through filters on the way to a storage tank. Then they dilute the gin with water to lower the alcohol level to 43%. Before bottling, the distillery draws samples for quality control testing. They examine the color, the aroma, and of course, the taste. There will be slight variations in flavor based on the freshness of the parsnips. This micro distillery has no automated bottling line. They fill the bottles by hand, only 6 at a time. They cork each bottle individually with a hand-operated press. They apply a plastic sleeve, which they heat shrink tightly over the neck. The consumer pulls a small gold tab to remove the seal and uncork the bottle. This hand-operated machine labels one bottle at a time. The machine removes the backing to expose the adhesive, then presses the label onto the bottle. This is a London dry gin, meaning it's made with the traditional ingredients and contains no added sweeteners or colorings. This distillation process is how gin was made before the age of large commercial distilleries.
Well, I do hope you enjoyed the video on the production methods of gin. A little note here to mention the reference books to make my presentation: F&B Service by Lily Crapp and Cousins. The YouTube courtesy video is from How It's Made, and the image sources are from Bing Image Search. I end this short video by giving you all a vote of thanks for your kind attention. I do hope I was able to teach you something about the famous alcoholic beverage, gin. Cheers and thank you.